Bird YouTube channel brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. In this video, I will show you how to make the Shark Puppet Scrubby. This is a fantastic little scrubby that, look, you literally put your hand in and it's a puppet. How much fun is the toddler in your life gonna have with this? Or maybe you have, maybe your husband's gonna really enjoy something like this in the bath time, or maybe this is the way to get them to do the dishes. This little scrubby is so much fun to make, and it's relatively easy. It uses simple stitches, but combine the simple stitches with the scrubby yarn and the unique construction of the bits and pieces. That's what makes it just a little bit tricky. But hey, that's what I'm here for, is to show you how to navigate those waters. See what I did there? If you want this pattern, it is free over on the Red Heart website. You can find a direct link to that right down there in the video description box below. And while you're down there, smash that like button, as my kids say, so that other people know you enjoyed this video. Once you have the pattern, go ahead and follow along with me as I show you how to make this little shark pattern, and I'll give you tips and tricks along the way to make it a little bit easier for you. Go ahead, grab that pattern, and let's get started. This shark puppet scrubby is made in various parts. The first part is actually the top of the shark. So as we look down here and I fold the shark like so, we are going to begin at the tip of the nose and increase out, and then work the body of the shark even, and then decrease down. Once we do that for the top, we will then do two portions for the bottom. So we'll do one for the bottom jaw and one for the back end of the shark. Once we have those bits done, the instructions want us to sew the whole body together, but I'm going to have you pause for a minute before we do that. We are going to go ahead and we're going to jump to the mouth bit. So we will make the top portion of the mouth and the bottom portion of the mouth. And then what we are going to do then is seam this bit together, create the teeth, and then we are going to sew the body to the mouth. And the reason we will do that is because it makes the placement of the bottom jaw of the shark and the back half of the shark a little bit easier to see. Once we have all of those sewn into place, the last part of the shark is, of course, the fins. And these are made really simple with some simple increases and decreases made in the same row so that you create a nice angle to the fin, and then you finish it off with some nice decreases so that we get a really cool shark fin. We'll sew those onto the body of the shark, and there you go. Fish are friends, not food. Let's jump in. We're going to move this shark aside and we will get started. I will grab my Red Heart Scrubby yarn, and I am using the color Glacier here for the video. And I am going to use a size J or a 6mm hook, just because it makes the stitches a little bit larger and easier for you to see on film. The pattern calls for a size H or a size 8, which is a 5mm hook, but honestly, the gauge isn't absolutely critical to this pattern, so use the hook size that gets you the size shark you want. We will begin with the top of the body of the puppet. So we will put a slip knot on our hook and we will chain 4. If you need a more detailed instructions on how to do the chain stitch or the single crochet stitch, you can check out my videos. Just click on that little link right up there and you'll find the beginner videos for those sections. Because this is an easy pattern, I'm going to go rather quickly through these stitches. Once you've chained 4 stitches, if this is the first time you've ever worked with scrubby yarn, you can obviously right now tell it's a little bit difficult to see the stitches. What you need to do, and this is how I think of it, I kind of let my eyes I want to say fade a little bit, to where I let the nubby bits of the yarn kind of disappear in my eyes, and I find the more solid section of the yarn. As you look at the scrubby yarn, you can see it has a nice core to it, and then it has the nubby bits that kind of come off like eyelash. So I want to ignore the eyelash portion and really find the chain, just like any sort of crochet chain. I will do a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each one to the end of the row. So I will end up with 3 single crochets by the end of this row. Once I get to the end, I will move on to row 2 of my puppet. So at the end of the row, I will chain one and turn. You can turn and chain one, it really doesn't matter. Now, we will begin with a single crochet into the first single crochet, and then in the next single crochet, we will do 3 single crochets. If you're still having a hard time finding where the stitch is with the Scrubby yarn, use your fingers and find the post of the stitch of the next stitch you're going to work into. And once you find the post, you can find where the top of that stitch is, and you can put your hook in there. Takes a little fiddling, but I promise you, you will get it. So there's 1 single crochet, there's 2 single crochet, and here's the 3rd one into that same stitch. If I can get that in there. And then I'll put a single crochet in the last stitch. So I went from 3 stitches to 5, and you can already see I'm starting to get a nice curve. Rows 3 and 4 are worked identical to each other, and we are going to work some increases. So let's go ahead and do those. We start off with a single crochet into the first single crochet. Now we want to put 2 single crochet in the next one. So we'll do 1 and 2. We'll single crochet into each single crochet across until we get to the last 2 single crochet. Now remember, on this row, we are working only into 5 stitches, which means we only have 1 single crochet to do before we get to our last 2 single crochet. Now that we're here, I can do my increase in the next one, which is 2 singles, and then I will put my solitary single in the very last. So I went from 5 stitches and I increased at 2 points, so now I have 7 stitches. I will chain 1 and turn, and I will repeat that row. So we put a single crochet in the first stitch, 2 single crochets in the next stitch, so there's 1 and 2, and now we will do single crochets evenly to our last 2 single crochets. So I will do 1, 2, and 3. That puts me to the last 2 single crochets, so I'll do an increase. There's 1 and 2, and then I'll 1 single crochet to end it, which gives me a total of 9 single crochets completed on this row. So this is what your work should look like at this point. You're starting to get a curve to it. This is the nose of the shark, and we're getting this nice curve. Row 5 is going to have us put our increases right in the center of the body. And what I want you to do is grab a stitch marker, because it is helpful to put a stitch marker in the center of these increases, so that way we know where we need to build our increases on the subsequent rows. I've grabbed my stitch marker, and I will go ahead, I will chain 1 and turn. And following row 5, I will put a single crochet in the first 4 single crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now I want to do my increase. So in this next single crochet, I will put 3 single crochets. There's 1, here's 2, and after that second one, I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to put my stitch marker into the top of that stitch that I just completed, okay? That's going to let me know that that is the center of my increases here. And now I need to put 1 more single crochet into that stitch. So I have 3 stitches into 1, and that leaves me with 4 stitches to work single crochets in to the end. 3 and 4. At the end of this row, you'll have something that looks a little bit like this. Rows 6, 7, and 8 are also increase rows, and you will be placing that increase of 3 single crochets into the center single crochet of the previous row. That's why it was so important that we use the stitch marker to mark that stitch. Let me show you how this will work. I will chain 1 and turn, so I'm beginning row 6. I will single crochet to the center single crochet, which is marked. I also could say I know that that's going to be 5 single crochets. So there we go, we're to the center single crochet that we have marked. I can go ahead and I can remove this stitch marker, and I will place 3 single crochet into that stitch that was marked. There's 1 And here's 2, and I will go ahead and mark the second one again because we will want to place a stitch there as well on the next row. And I'll put 1 more into that center stitch. So there's 3. And now I just single crochet all the way to the end of the row. When I get to the end of the row, I will chain 1 and turn and work the same row again. So let's do that. Let me get to the end of the row here. Chain 1, turn my work, and then I will single crochet to that marked stitch. The instructions specifically say single crochet to the center single crochet of the 3 single crochets of the previous row. But see how much easier it is just to have that stitch marked? You can be like, okay, I just need to single crochet all the way to that marked stitch. There's the stitch, stitch marker. Take that out, place my 3 single crochets here. So there's 1, here's 2. I'm going to place my stitch marker there because remember I have to do 1 more increase into that stitch. And I'll put 1 more there, so there's 3. And then I will single crochet to the end of my row. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that was row 7. Last row, we need to do row 8. So we chain 1 and turn. We'll single crochet all the way up to the marked stitch. And we will do an increase once again. This will be our last increase. So there we go. Keep going all the way up to that marked stitch. Almost there. In this stitch, I can remove my marker, place my 3 stitches right here into this last, or into that center single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll single crochet to the end. When I get to the end of this row, I will have 14 single crochets and 1 3 single crochet set for a total of 17 single crochets. So this is what your work should look like right now. Looks kind of like a trapezoid, doesn't it? But that's okay, because on the following rows, we will work regular single crochets back and forth without any increases or any decreases, and it will straighten out our work. So I know that you know how to do regular single crochets back and forth, so I'm not going to show you how to do that. It's basically just chain 1, single crochet along the row, chain 1, and single crochet back. The biggest thing I want to point out is that you will do that for rows 9 through 25. If you want to know exactly how many rows you've done, I want to recommend using stitch markers on the side of your work. Every time you finish a row, put a stitch marker in that row and just let them hang out there. Then you're able to go back and count your stitch markers. So you could go 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to 25. Or the instructions actually have it written out that they want you to work this entire piece from nose to the part that you're going to finish until it measures 6.5 inches, which is what I've done. So I'm going to set this aside, and I've pulled in this next section. So this bottom bit down here is just like what we just did. This bottom blue part is what we just did. This green section is the next rows, so it's the rows 9 through 25. And you can see that just by doing the plain single crochets back and forth without any increases, eventually your work straightens out and you get to a straight point. So from here to here, I have 6.5 inches, okay? I decided that I wasn't going to mark every row. I decided I was going to use just the measurement because it's easier for me, especially with the Scrubby yarn, just to use measurements. Once you reach the 6.5 inches, it's time to move on to row 26. So let me go ahead and get you started on that. Row 26 begins with a chain 1, and we will single crochet in the first single crochet. Now we will work a single crochet 2 together, and this is going to decrease our work so that way we begin to get some shape. So I go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pause. I will go into the next stitch over, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pause. So I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops, and that's a single crochet 2 together. Now I will single crochet in each single crochet across to the last 3 single crochet, and I will do a decrease again and end with a regular single. So let's get to the end of this row, which will leave us with 3 single crochets to work into. So here are my 3 single crochets. I will do another single crochet 2 together. So I yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops, and I will end with a single crochet. On row 26, we decrease 2 stitches. Rows 27 and 28, we will work evenly without any increases. So you just single crochet back and forth. When you get to the instructions that say 29 through 31, it says repeat row 26. So we will literally just repeat row 26 for row 29, 30, and 31. As you look down here, I've already completed row 27 and 28, so it's time to begin row 29, which is a repeat of row 26. So we chain 1, do a single crochet in the first single crochet, and then we will do a single crochet 2 together, and then single crochet to the last 3 stitches. So let's get to those last 3 stitches. There's 2. There is that. All right, so onto the last 3 stitches, I will do my decrease again. So there is my single crochet 2 together, and then 1 single crochet to end with. Chain 1 and turn. So the instructions still say repeat row 26 for row 30, so we'll do that again. So I single crochet in the first stitch, work a single crochet 2 together over the next 2 stitches, and then single crochet to the last 3 stitches. To the last 3 stitches, I will work my single crochet 2 together and then finish with a single crochet. Chain 1, and this will be my last row. So I will single crochet 2 together, single crochet to the last 3 stitches, there we are. I work my single crochet 2 together again and finish with my single crochet. The instructions say now to leave a long tail so that way we can use it to seam the shark together. You also have a choice to use what the designer called carpet thread, which is just really sturdy thread to use to seam everything together. It's really your choice what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and leave a long tail, and then I will also show you how to use thread to seam everything together also. Is the body of the shark. So this literally is the top portion of the shark. And again, I did mine in different colors, that way you could see each section. But this back half here, this is the back half of the shark, this is the center body, and this is the tip. Once you have the top body of the shark completed, it's time to make the bottom body of the shark, which is really simple because it's just a repeat of everything you just did. So you literally already know how to do that and don't need me to show you. But let me show you what the pieces look like. As I pull these in, I did do them in different colors. This here is the front portion, so this is the front section of the shark for the bottom. And if I were to set that down right there, and then this is the back portion of the shark. I did it in green, and I could set that down right there. You can see here that it looks a little bit different, right? Like you kind of want to pull this up and have it so that the bottom jaw is lined up with the top, and maybe the bottom halves are lined up down there. But that's really not what you want to do. You want the bottom half to be partnered up, yes, but you want this top portion to actually be shorter because the bottom portion of the shark jaw is smaller than the top. That can be a little bit tricky, which is why at the start of the video I mentioned I don't want you to seam everything together at this point. We want to make the mouth first. So even though the instructions say to assemble at this point, I want you to pause. I want you to set these pieces aside and let's go ahead and make the mouth. Before we move on, I do want to point out, you can see here where I added the stitch markers, so that way I could really keep track of the rows I was working on, so that way the bottom section of the bottom of the body would match up with the bottom section of the top of the body. I wanted to make sure that they would line up evenly. So that's why I have those stitch markers there. You don't have to use them, but I did leave them in place, that way you could see how they could be used in order to really make sure one section matches up to another. So now that we have the top of the body complete, and you can follow the instructions for the bottom of the body because it's just like what we just did, I'm going to set this aside and let's move on to the mouth.